Welcome to another Gaslec podcast. I'm your host, Sean, here at Gaslec, live from Gaslec Towers in the historic city of Rochester, as I like to call it. So this week's episode is all about EV chargers, electric vehicle chargers. So before we start, here's my friend Sean to tell you a little bit about the podcast and what we do. Thank you for listening to another Gaslec podcast, the show to help DIYers, new people into the industry, and those who are wanting to expand their knowledge. Each week we'll pick a topic and go into details, and with special guests and listeners' questions answered, we will look forward to some of the conversations. So let's get back to the show. Oh, sorry there. Oh, bit of bad timing. So EV chargers. So we're starting to see more of an influx of electric vehicles, chargers coming into car parks. Shopping centres, multi-storey car parks and stuff, and motorway services. They're starting to put them in. They're getting a lot more popular these days. And controversially, they're not really holding their value that well when you look at the used car prices. And I think we're going to have a bit of a battery revolution coming up very soon. And I think hopefully there's going to be some more third-party companies coming on board to regenerate batteries and repair them. At the moment, we don't really see it in this country. So we're starting to get to that age. I think it was 2004, Tesla released the Model S, like the mainstream electric car. I know we've had electric milk floats since the 60s and stuff like that. But, the mainstream stuff, we all noticed the Tesla Model S, and then the other companies started coming on board. But we really haven't had that issue at the moment, widespread, where the batteries are massively failing. And there's lots of reports of a new Tesla Model S battery costing 25 grand. And on Auto Trade at the moment, I looked earlier on, I think it's about 14,000 quid you can buy a Model S for. So if you can buy the car for 14 and the battery's going to cost you 25, and the battery goes, the car's worth nothing. So putting that politics aside of the battery sort of life and storage and stuff, we're sort of coming in. There's a lot more PCPs, so like hire agreements being done on vehicles. A lot of company vehicles with company vehicle tax are going over to hybrid and fully electric vehicles. So to get them charged for the company tax for ticking the green box. So without getting into the politics of it all, because I can go down a bit of a rabbit hole with it all, but so EV chargers. So we fitted one this week. So we fitted one up, and it's an app-based wall charger. So I thought I'd just go into a little bit of detail about sort of how the installation goes and about the app and what you can and can't do on it, sort of things, and some of the features on it. And it wasn't, I think it's called an EVEC, made by BG, electrical product manufacturer, under a bit of a different brand name. So you got other called what they're called. It will come to me in a minute. I haven't written it down, so apologies. And there's Zappi, and there's a few other manufacturers out there which are sort of quite mainstream, but there are literally hundreds of them out there on the market. So the one we fitted, I was going to talk about really. So we had first-hand experience of it. So it's an app-based box. So when it's all installed, you plug the you plug your wire into the box. So the one we fitted was an untethered box, which means it doesn't have a fixed cable. So you can buy these boxes with a fixed wire coming off the bottom, and you plug it in, and you sort of wrap the wire around the box onto a little bracket and then just plug it in. So you don't have so it's a fixed cable. If you're in a situation where you're not charging it a lot, or you're in a bit of a communal area or right next to a roadside, and you're thinking about someone might try and nick the wire off it, or because it does contain a lot of copper, someone might come along and just cut the cable and run off with it. So I've seen these in motorway services where these cables are being stolen in these little bit of a, sort of the remote dark corners, just for the copper cable. So the one we fitted is an untethered, so you have to use a separate cable, and you plug it in the box and plug it in the car, and then go off from there. So, and there's a little blue light on the thing, and it sort of flashes when it's charging. It's all very Gucci. So from the app-based side of it, so when we was getting the app set up, you can set timers. So if your cheap rate electricity starts at, I think the client was starting at 10:30 at night till 7:30 in the morning. So their electricity was going from 23p a kilowatt to 14p a kilowatt. So it made a big difference just to set the timer up for to come on at, say, midnight. So it would kick in at the cheaper rate electricity and then charge through the early hours of the morning when electricity was at its cheapest, and then drop out before. Teslas have their own app on the cars where you set that up. You set how much charge you want by a certain time, and it sort of does the back calculations and starts the charge at the time it wants to make sure it's just finished in time for you to get in the vehicle, which is pretty natty. That's pretty cool. But if you don't have that, if you have any other sort of electric vehicle, a Zoe or the little Citroens, whatever they're called, sort of the mainstream sort of small sort of European cars, they won't come with that app. So you do it from the box. Another little feature on it, which I thought was pretty cool. If you're in a bit of a communal area, it's near the street, you think, actually, while I'm at work, is anyone nicking it? Anyone just plugging it in and having a go? You can actually lock the box off. There's a lot of electronics inside the box, but you can lock the box so it won't release any charge. So you can actually disable it from the app, so no one else can plug into it. So you're sort of safe in that knowledge. So going back to like the installation side. When you screw the box to the wall, it comes with your supply cable. So the cable goes back to the fuse box. So inside the fuse box, or you consume it's a technical name, then you physically hardwire it in. So there was a cable that would come in, and it has a Cat5 data cable, so it's a 4mm cable that comes up. So the box that we installed, and most sort of home boxes, are single phase electricity. So most of our houses come in with just one live, one neutral, and that's how the wire physically comes in. However the earth configuration is, we won't go into that in this podcast, but we'll do it another time. But that's really what we have. So onto that, we can have up to 7.4 kilowatts as if the vehicle draws it and it's available, then it will supply it. So that's from your normal domestic house without having to notify the DNO, the district network operator, about what we're doing and stuff like that. So it's quite intelligent. So it has two clamps called CT clamps, and they go around the incoming live. So if we talk about clamp one, so it goes around the incoming live. So what it does, it monitors. It says actually how much electricity, how much current is being drawn from the house at the moment. So if you've got a big draw of electricity, you've got your electric oven on, your electric hob, and you've got all your lights on, and your hot tubs running, or your swimming pool, your heat pump, or whatever it'll be, all your appliances are running, and there's not enough current left to charge the battery, it will turn itself off. And it'll wait till the time when the demand of the house drops before it'll turn the car charger on. And so it'll do that, and also it'll reduce it from 7.4 to 3.7. So it can drop down as well. So it can recognise that you still want to charge your vehicle. There's still some capacity, but not full capacity. So it will just drop it down from 7.4 to 3.7, and it will just charge it at a slower rate until the demand of the house drops even lower. Then it will take it back up to 7.4. That's also if the vehicle demands it as well. So there's a lot of data transfer between the charger and the vehicle. So it's not just a funny sort of extension lead that's screwed to the wall. It's actually, there's a lot of electronics in there that deals with stuff. So it's all very technical stuff. So the types of cable. So really we've got two sort of types of cable that we on our electric vehicle. So we have a type 1, which isn't that common anymore. It's like a round plug with like a couple of, if you imagine like a coffee cup with two handles on its side with a little wing, the little holders. It's round with like a top notch and a bottom notch, and it goes into the car. So type 1s were, sort of not really being used anymore, but they're still out there, but they're not that common. So most vehicles now are type 2, and that's like the round plug with the sort of the flat edge at the top that goes in. So when you look at them, they're round with the big flat edge, sort of about 1/8's been cut off, and that's called the type 2 plug. And it's got quite a few pins in there, so for the AC voltage that goes in at 230 volts, and then the data cables that come off of that and feed and talk to each other. So yeah, that's the Type 2. Type 2 also goes up to a 3-phase. So in a commercial environment, we're not talking your normal house here, it'll go up to 22 kilowatts. I haven't worked that out to get out the trusty calculator. So 22 kilowatts divided into a European 230 volts will give in theory, will give a charge of about 95 amp. So you are really looking at sort of a big, heavy commercial unit with 95 amps worth of capacity. Remember, that's just for one charger. So you've got a building with 100 employees, and then you go and set out 6 EV chargers. That's potentially the capacity of up to 600 amps. So personally, I can't see many people installing 22 kilowatt 3-phase chargers multiple times in a sort of commercial building. So, but the plug will go up to that because it's got various pins to share the current as it goes through. So we spoke about the box, and it supplies a AC voltage, 230 volts, into the car. So the car batteries, like any other batteries we have in our remote controls and our mobile phones, are all DC, direct current, rather than AC alternating current, and that's how they store the voltage in the battery. So what we got on the vehicles is we have inverters, so it changes it from AC to DC, and almost every electrical appliance we have in our home will have some sort of converter. Your mobile phone charger that goes in, you have 5 volts DC to 9 volts that plugs into your car like a little type, plugs into your phone, sorry, that's you know, like your Type C phone charger, and that'll have an inverter, and it will take it from 230 volt AC down to 5 to 9 volts DC. So on the vehicles, they'll have if it's a plug-in hybrid, it'll have a big version of that comes in. Then it back converts it, and most electric vehicles are storing voltage between 350 to 400 volts DC. So it's a huge amount of voltage. So it converts it to DC, and then it ups the voltage via sort of transformers, sort of backwards in theory, to the stored voltage of the car battery. And I was looking at the internet earlier on, and they are looking at storing voltages of up to 800 volts. Which will give us a higher voltage, and it'll give us better range. So with battery technology moving forwards, up in the voltage will actually, and we'll go through this on another podcast about voltage and current and the relationships with them all. But the higher the voltage, actually, the better range you'll be able to get out your same battery because it will use technically less current, so it will give you more distance. So that's the sort of the future. And we've all seen the videos on social media and YouTube and stuff like that where EV cars have gone wrong. There's a lot of energy being stored, and it's gone off like a firework factory. Yeah, we've all seen those catastrophic failures. But then we've all seen the catastrophic failures of petrol vehicles when they go up, and diesel vehicles when they catch fire as well, when there's a failure on them. But the electric ones at the moment just seem to obviously take a bit more precedence on the platforms when they proper go wrong. So hopefully I've answered a few questions that you may have had about EV chargers. Sorry, I sort of skipped around. I haven't sort of edited this podcast. I've just gone straight through with it. So Type 2 is the most common, 3.7 to 7.4 kilowatts charger. From the app, you can disable it. It'll change its own current. One thing I didn't mention, sorry, CT clamp 2. So I've got a few notes written down here. So CT clamp 2, so CT clamp 1 measures the house current and what's being used and should it sort of change up and down. CT clamp 2, if you've got a solar installation, will clamp around the solar input to the output of the inverter. So if it knows it's putting in and it's got spare electricity coming down from in daylight hours coming off of your roof or wherever your solar is, it'll actually divert that into the car, so it can monitor what's being produced for free off of the building, or what's actually at night time. It's got to use the incoming mains. So the installation we had didn't have solar, so we didn't get that bit set up. But that was proper exciting stuff to see that, and it wasn't that expensive actually either as a box. So the other manufacturers are sort of twice the price, 800. I've seen them for £1,000 just for the charger box. And this little one here, I think it costs about 375. This little box that goes on the wall, actually done really well. Maybe the others have got a bit of a different design, a bit more sort of curvy or whatever it is, so it looks a little bit more sort of slick and sexy. But it's a bit squarer, but actually for the cost, I think it's a cracking little bit of kit. So any questions about this, or about the podcast in general, email us at podcast@gaslec.net. And if you've got any questions you want to have answered on the podcast, email them to us in podcast@gaslec.net. Or if you want to be a guest on the show, if you think you can add anything to our audience. Now our audience is far and wide. We have a lot of listeners in America, some in Thailand, across Europe, all around the Britain, up in Scotland, Wales, down in Devon. I was actually quite shocked to see, and I still sort of takes me really, when I look around and go, someone that's actually listening to me chat away in like Thailand or wherever it be. I'm like, wow, I was sort of taken back by it a little bit, to be honest. But yeah, this is our little EV charger bit. So you want to get in contact, you know what our details are. Have a fantastic day and enjoy the summer, wherever you're doing, whatever your friends and family. Take care. Thanks, bye.